This girl starts off by letting us know that when she was younger, her and her little brother would have to travel state to state because of her parents' job. Eventually, because of them moving so much, the parents actually decided to get a divorce. She said it was more so because they ended up having to go to like different states at a time, and they kind of grew apart. During the divorce, they both agreed that they would take the children a year at a time. So the mom would take them for a year, then the dad would take them the following year, and so on and so forth. She says how much it sucks to have been with only one parent for a year, but she understands. She doesn't hold any resentment towards them. She knew that they were doing this and that they were trying to give her and her brother a better life. You know, she never held this against them. What she didn't like though was that both of her parents were very hard workers, and sometimes even though she had to stay with one parent, that parent still had to go to work, so she would end up having to stay alone at home. Well, not exactly alone, but she had to stay with her little brother that was 4 years younger than her. She kind of mentions how annoying it was because at the time it was just someone that she had to take care of. In a way, yeah, she was alone and she had to protect her little brother. She knows how annoying that sounds because at the end of the day, that's her little brother, but at the time, she was a little girl herself, so yeah, it was annoying having to take care of another little kid. Story she's about to tell us that happened says that it was the year that she had to stay with her dad in Jalisco, more specifically Zapopan. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. At the time, she was 11 years old and her little brother was 6. By this time, they had already been back and forth with mom and dad, and this was going to be their last day before they made the permanent move to the United States. The house that they moved into with their dad was huge, and she said it looked fairly new, like it didn't even look like anybody had lived there before them, which is why she never got a negative vibe or like anything that could tell her like something bad was in there. She said because this wasn't going to be a permanent stay, they didn't really decorate, they didn't really add furniture to the house, just what they really needed, which was like the fridge, the stove, their beds. Because they didn't add furniture or like so many things in that house, and because it was so big, any little noise would be like echoed throughout the house. She says that she is not exaggerating when she says that the echo would sound through the house, because she could sometimes hear if like her dad dropped something. She could hear when her brother would flush the toilet all the way across the house, or when someone would turn on like the water to take a shower. You can hear everything. So one day at around midnight, she was on the phone with one of her friends when she started to hear her brother turn her doorknob like really hard. She got annoyed and basically told him to go back to sleep and stop bothering her. She said he stopped and she thought he went to bed, but then 20 minutes later, while she was still on the phone with her friend, it happened again. Her brother was like literally trying to open her doorknob, and this time she was pissed, so she walked towards the door and just screamed for him to go to bed. She continued to be on the phone with her friend. She said that she was really into the chisme that she was telling her, when all of a sudden it happened again. But this time it kind of like startled her because that door was being pulled violently by her brother. It got so bad that she just ended up hanging up the phone, started walking towards the door. Before she even got to the door, she started screaming at her little brother like, "What are you doing and why are you awake at..." By this point it was 2 in the morning. So she's like, "Why are you awake at 2 in the morning? What's wrong with you?" She's still screaming, so she opens the door and she's like, "What are you doing awake?" There was no one in front of her door. She said in that moment, she was not scared. She was more so confused. So she closed her door and like it kind of hit her in that moment. Like she has her back against her door and she's like, oh my God. She realized that she never heard her little brother hop off his bed, open his door, or much less walk through that hallway, which is something that she was used to hearing, because again, that house would echo every single tiny itty bitty noise. That's the moment that I would simply pass away. She said that while she was in that oh fuck moment is when she heard her little brother hop off his bed, open his door, and walk in that hallway. And that's when she opened her bedroom door to meet him, and he was standing there, and she's like, "What are you doing? Why were you shaking my door in that way?" Because again, like, yeah, she never heard him, but also she's like, maybe he did do it. It was at that moment when her little brother told her that it wasn't him, but that he got out of his bed because he was really cold and scared because he felt as if someone was watching him. He also said that he thought he had heard someone open his bedroom door and come in there. In that moment, this 11-year-old girl had to be like the bravest girl she could, told him to stay in her room, get in the bed, and she still had the bravery to run to his bedroom because she wanted to get him his own pillow and blanket. She said that when she went to his bedroom to get the stuff, she was so scared that all she could look was straight at the bed, get the stuff. She could not look around his room because she also felt like if something was watching her when she walked in there. Another thing, she also noticed how cold her brother's room was. It was freezing in that room. She said that there was no way that room could have been that cold because it was in the time of season where it was hot in Sopopan. I think I'm pronouncing it right. Okay. So there was no way that that room could have been that cold. She said it felt like a freezer in there. So she quickly grabbed his stuff, started walking towards her room, and noticed that her little brother was not in there. She almost started freaking out, but she turned around and saw him standing at the edge of the stairs. And he was literally staring like down the stairs, almost like if something was there. She was a little too scared to get close to him, so instead she's like, "Hey, are you okay? I told you to go into my room. What are you looking at?" Her brother didn't even answer her. All he did was point down the stairs. I try to put myself in these situations and think, would I have gotten close and maybe just pulled him into my room? Or would I just be like, cool, close my fucking door? After he pointed down the steps, he then eventually says, "There's a little girl at the bottom of the stairs." In that moment, she felt a type of horror that she had never felt before. Her body like got stiff. She was scared, but she also came to the conclusion that that little girl possibly was the one shaking her door and it wasn't her brother. She said that after that, the quickest way possible, she grabbed her brother by the shoulders and just pulled him back into her room and locked that door. When she did get close to kind of pull him, her curiosity got the better of her because she did take a glance down there. Thankfully, she didn't see a little girl down there. She saw nothing. She said that somehow they ended up falling asleep, and the next day they realized that they were in fact not alone because they didn't know that their dad was home too. She thought she was home alone with her little brother. Her dad was actually in his bedroom asleep with the door closed. She actually says that she doesn't think it would have mattered because her dad had such a deep sleep that they would have never woken him up at that time. The next day, they ended up telling the dad what happened, and all he did was laugh because kids have the greatest imagination. She says that her and her brother, now that they're older, talk about this that happened, and a lot of other things happened, but nothing this crazy. Except she says that her brother remembers this differently. He never remembers seeing a girl down there. He almost said that he felt like he was in a state of trance, and he only woke up when she pulled him into her bedroom. Anyway, this is a story that I translated from Spanish to English from Relatos de Noche. I'm gonna add the video here with the timestamp so you can listen to it in Spanish. So much scarier in Spanish, by the way. Anyway, what do you guys think? Would you have been that brave? Because I don't think I could have.